Meredith has a question about applying the cross-centered reading to the Old Testament. In particular, she is having a hard time reading the story of the Amalekites found in Exodus 17, 8 through 16. It seems that God is divinely assisting the Israelites in the
Right.
battle against the Amalekites. And so she's curious about your thoughts, which you do talk about this in Crucifixion of the Warrior God, I think. Don't you?
I don't know if I do.
This is the problem. You write 3,000 pages. I always forget what's in there and what's not.
I'm not sure this is. That's a very good question. And because this is the story where you may recall, as long as Moses has his hands in the air, the Israelites were winning. But when he got fatigued and the arms started coming down, then the Israelites would be losing. And so Aaron and Joshua, I think it is, have to hold his hands up in the air so the Israelites keep on winning. Very strange story. Now, the point of that story, I take it, is that several things. First of all, the fact that the Israelites were fighting, we got to remember this. God always said, if you'll trust me, I will fight your battles for you. I'll go out ahead of you. I'll drive your enemies away. I will protect you. And so the fact that the Israelites were using the sword here already tells you that they were to that degree out of God's will. They were supposed to be using the sword in the first place. Second thing is the point of the story. It's always good to remember what the story is meant to do and not meant to do. But in this case, the whole thing is about how you're supposed to be trusting Yahweh in these battles, not the sword. And so to remind them, even though they're now using the sword, so they're already one step removed from his ideal, he's like saying, well, if you're going to fight, still, I'll use that as an object lesson to teach you that the battle belongs to the Lord. And you have that phrase, doesn't belong to the swift of the horse and mighty warriors, belongs to the Lord. And so, and he's showing the power of intercessory prayer. And that's what that whole, hand lifting, hand falling thing. I often wonder what would happen if Moses started doing jumping jacks. The battle would be going boom, but they're winning. Da 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 da. Anyways,
Greg, come on, man. There's lives at stake here. Stop playing around.
It's a curious story. So that's the main point. All right, to trust in Yahweh. So then the next question might be, well, doesn't that involve God in violence? If God's helping one side win, that doesn't involve God in some kind of violence. He seems like he's condoning the battle there. In a sense, you're right. God gets his hands dirty. But it's no different, I don't think, than like in Romans 13. The Lord there says that he tells Christians, don't you ever exact vengeance, don't you ever retaliate, trust the Lord to exact vengeance. He says that in Romans 12. And then Romans 13, he turns around and says, now, here's one of the way that God enacts vengeance. Here's one of the things you're trusting God for. Here's one of the things that you don't do, but God does. And he says God uses the governments as he finds them to keep law and order, to punish wrongdoers. In a fallen world where people are enslaved to the powers, often people won't do the right thing for the right reasons. So to keep the society in check, God is influencing governments to use the sword in a right way. Now, what does that involve? I don't know, but it's not God having violence. God's pushing in the direction of justice, reluctantly, because he would rather they didn't use the sword at all. But if you're going to use a sword, and all governments do, the power of coercion, then use it towards justice. So God's always pushing in that direction. In a sense, helping, he's working with people who are violent, and in a sense, he's helping them be violent. But it's not like he's condoning the violence. He's simply saying, since you're going to use it, I'll make the best use of it. I think that's what's going on here. How would he help Israelites win the battle? It could be something completely nonviolent, like God helps them think at their best on strategy. God helps them notice something they didn't notice before. Oh, we could take the high ground over there. God somehow breathes more courage into them, or however that may look. It does, I think, so that God is not above getting his hands dirty. He's not like a puritanical deity up there saying, oh, I'm not going to get my hands dirty. No, it's like, I hate the fact that you're doing this, but I'm going to help this side win. Like, I think God was really against Hitler winning the war. And so I think he might have been influential in that. So it doesn't involve God being violent, but it does involve God helping one group excel in their natural capacities in a way that's going to give them an advantage.